In every corner of Africa, stories breathe, tales buried in dust, whispered through firelight. You're about to hear one of them. Welcome to African Horror Stories. Liberian folklore. The forest devil called his name. The drums began 3 nights after Emmanuel buried his brother. Not loud, not close, just deep enough to travel through the trees and settle beneath the skin. Doom, 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 doom. The old women in the village stopped talking whenever the sound came. Men quietly shut their doors. Mothers pulled children indoors before sunset. Nobody explained anything. In Kbolokai village, people survived by pretending certain things were normal. Emmanuel sat outside his late brother's hut, staring into the dark forest beyond the cassava fields. The jungle looked black even under moonlight, thick, endless, alive. The drums came again. Doom, doom, doom. His stomach tightened. 3 days ago, his older brother Joseph had gone hunting near the sacred forest boundary. He never returned. The village found only his rifle and footprints. Bare human footprints leading into the trees. No tracks coming out. "They took him," Emmanuel whispered. Behind him, an old voice answered, "The forest only takes people who listen." Old Ma Gwe stood beside the cooking fire, holding a lantern. The orange light revealed wrinkles deep as cracked earth across her face. "You should sleep," she told him. "What took my brother?" The old woman's eyes shifted toward the forest. "The forest devil walks again." Emmanuel almost laughed. Almost. But nobody in Liberia laughed at the forest devil. Not really. Children grew up hearing the warnings. Never whistle near the sacred trees. Never follow the drums. Never look behind you if your name is called at night. Because sometimes the forest devil wore a man's voice. Ma Gwe lowered herself onto a wooden stool beside him. "When I was a girl, a boy disappeared during initiation season. They searched for 2 weeks. What happened to him? They found him sitting beside the river." Emmanuel frowned. "Alive?" The old woman nodded slowly. "But wrong." A cold breeze passed through the village. The drums stopped. For a moment, everything became silent except for insects humming in the dark. Then, "Emmanuel." The voice came from the forest, soft, familiar. His blood froze. It sounded exactly like Joseph. "Emmanuel," the voice called again. Ma Gwe grabbed his arm so hard her nails dug into his skin. "Do not answer." The voice laughed softly from the trees. Not Joseph's laugh, something pretending to be Joseph. The lantern flame flickered violently. Then the drums returned, closer this time. Doom, doom, doom. Branches shifted deep within the forest. Something large moved between the trees. Emmanuel caught only pieces of it. Raffia, a wooden mask, long arms covered in hanging fibers, and eyes, tiny pale eyes glowing beneath carved darkness. His breath stopped. The creature stood impossibly tall, at least 8 feet, maybe more. The forest devil watched the village without moving. Nobody came outside. Nobody screamed. That was the worst part. The village already knew it was there. The figure slowly lifted one arm, then pointed directly at Emmanuel. The drums stopped, and the creature vanished back into the trees.
The next morning, Joseph's hut was empty, but muddy footprints covered the floor, bare human footprints. Emmanuel followed them outside. They led toward the forest. His mother saw him staring and immediately began praying under her breath. "You must leave this alone," she warned. "He's still alive." "No," her voice trembled. "Something came back wearing your brother's shadow." That night, the drums returned earlier than before. The entire village locked itself indoors, but Emmanuel could not sleep. He kept hearing Joseph's voice outside his window. "Help me, please, Emmanuel." Each word sounded weaker, sadder, like someone dying alone in darkness. Finally, near midnight, he grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The village was empty. No fires, no voices, only drums echoing through the jungle. And there, standing near the cassava field, Joseph. Emmanuel nearly cried with relief. His brother stood barefoot beneath the moonlight, covered in dirt. "Joseph!" The figure raised its head slowly. Something felt wrong immediately. Joseph smiled too wide. His eyes did not blink. "Come," he whispered. The drums deepened. Joseph turned and walked toward the forest. Emmanuel followed. Because humans are tragic creatures. Give us love, grief, or guilt, and we will walk directly into nightmares carrying our own lantern. The deeper they entered the jungle, the colder the air became. Soon the village lights disappeared completely. Only moonlight filtered through twisted branches overhead. Then Emmanuel noticed the silence. No insects, no birds, nothing alive. Joseph stopped walking. Ahead stood dozens of figures between the trees, tall, covered in raffia, wooden masks staring forward. Forest devils, motionless, watching him. Emmanuel backed away slowly. "Joseph." His brother turned around. The skin on his face twitched unnaturally, like something underneath was learning how to wear it. "You should not have come." The voice was no longer human. The figures began circling him. Drums exploded from every direction, loud, violent, impossible. Emmanuel covered his ears and screamed. Then he saw them. Human faces beneath the raffia. Villagers, missing people, hunters, children, all staring with empty, pale eyes. The forest devil was not one creature. It was all of them, every person the forest had ever taken. Joseph stepped closer. Black liquid dripped from his mouth. When the drums call, the forest hungers. The masked figures rushed forward at once. Emmanuel ran. Branches tore his skin as he sprinted blindly through darkness. Behind him came drums and screaming and hundreds of pounding footsteps. Something grabbed his shoulder. Another hand caught his shirt. He kept running. Then, suddenly, light. He burst from the trees into the village clearing just before dawn. The drums stopped instantly. Villagers slowly emerged from their homes. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Emmanuel collapsed into the dirt, shaking violently. Marguerite approached carefully. "You saw them." He looked toward the forest edge. Dozens of figures stood between the trees, watching silently. Then, one by one, they disappeared into the darkness, all except Joseph. His brother remained standing beneath the trees, smiling, waiting. The sun began rising, and slowly Joseph stepped backward into the forest and vanished forever. 3 days later, the drums began again. This time, they called Emmanuel's name.
That's all for today. If you liked the video, let me know by hitting like. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe for more. You can watch another video of mine right here. See you next time.